Welcome to our deep dive today
Mm-hmm.
into the world of Hecate.
Always a fun one.
Yeah, you've sent over some fascinating sources,
Yeah.
articles from the Collector and Theoi project,
Mm.
plus a video from that Lady of the Library YouTube channel.
Oh, I love her video.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Yeah, and today we're
Yeah.
going beyond that typical witch goddess's image
Right.
to uncover a more complex,
Yeah.
nuanced Hecate,
Absolutely.
exploring her evolution and significance.
That's what we're here for.
It is.
Yeah, it's exciting to have
That's
these
our real-
diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, we can compare the academic approach of Theoi project
Yeah.
with the more enthusiast-driven content from Lady of the Library.
Right.
And it just gives us this broader understanding of
that's
how
so-
she's viewed.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Who is Hecate?
Yeah.
The Collector paints her as this Greek goddess with a vast portfolio. Magic, witchcraft, the moon ghost's necromancy,
She does it all.
even childbirth and prosperity.
It's the whole shebang.
She's connected to both blessings and curses.
That's unusual.
Yeah,
You don't see that very often.
which is unusual for a Greek deity.
Yeah. It's not very common at all.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that duality is at the heart of her identity.
Absolutely. And it's key.
Right.
It's a key point.
She doesn't fit neatly into those, like,
Nope.
good or evil categories we often apply to
You-
gods and goddesses.
She's beyond that.
Yeah, it suggests a connection
Mm.
to a more primal, fundamental force.
I like that. I
Yeah,
like that primal.
that encompasses both creation and destruction.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's it right there.
such an interesting observation.
It is, yeah?
It makes you wonder if those
Yeah.
seemingly opposite forces
Yeah.
are actually two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you know, that's also reflected in her epithets.
Okay.
Like Courageous,
Thistlephos?
Nurse of Children,
Okay.
and then Enodia, She of the Crossroads,
Oh.
which speaks to that role as a guide between realms.
Oh. Okay.
So it's there, too.
Okay, so we have this powerful goddess with a foot in both worlds,
Mm.
but her origins seem a bit murky.
Well, yeah, the origins are always a little bit
Yeah.
debated.
Yeah, both Theoi project and the YouTube video
Right.
delve into the debate
Yeah.
about whether she was truly Greek
Mm-hmm.
or adopted from another culture.
It's always a good question.
It is.
Okay, now.
Yeah. The Collector hints at the possibility
Right?
of Hecate
Yeah.
being integrated from the Cimmerians
The Cimmerians, yep.
in Anatolia,
Mm-hmm.
which was known for its
Strong magical traditions.
strong magical traditions.
It works.
So Lady of the Library takes that idea further,
She does.
citing archaeological evidence,
Yeah.
like the Hecate Sanctuary at Lagina
Oh, yeah.
in modern-day Turkey, which would have been part of ancient Coloria.
Exactly. And that sanctuary
Yeah.
is not just any old temple.
Right.
It was a major religious center,
Right.
indicating her significance in Clarion culture.
So Theoi project also offers evidence supporting a Greek origin,
Right.
pointing out that her name might be derived
Mhm.
from the Greek word hekatos,
Hekatos, meaning
meaning far-reaching,
far-reaching, right?
which was also an epithet
and that was
of Apollo.
an epithet for Apollo.
So even her name becomes a clue
Yeah.
in this puzzle of her origins.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if it was a bit of both.
It could have been.
Maybe a blending of Greek and Anatolian beliefs.
It very well could have been, you know, religious syncretism.
Right.
The fusion of different belief systems
Yeah.
was quite common in the ancient world.
And Hecate, with her connection to such universal themes
Yeah.
as magic, death, and the cycles of nature,
Right.
could easily have been adopted and adapted.
By different cultures.
Yeah, by different cultures.
Absolutely.
Now, one image that often comes up in modern discussions of Hecate
Uh-huh.
is the triple goddess,
Right.
maiden, mother, crone.
But the YouTube video specifically calls that out
Right.
as a later interpretation.
It does, yeah. Important distinction to make.
It is an important distinction.
Lady of the Library does a good job explaining
She does a really good job.
how that concept was popularized by Robert Graves
Yeah.
in his book, The White Goddess,
Mm.
which, while influential,
Right.
doesn't accurately reflect the ancient Greek understanding of Hecate.
No, not quite.
So not the original maiden mother crone, then?
No.
Okay, those roles were often filled by other figures,
It were.
like the Moirai,
Right.
the Fates,
The fates.
who controlled the threads of life and destiny.
Mm.
Hecate's association with the triple form emerged later,
It did.
as the Collector suggests,
Right.
with the 4th century grammarian Servius,
Right.
who linked her to birth, growth, and death.
Yep. Yep, so he kind of got that ball rolling.
But even if the maiden mother crone concept isn't entirely accurate, the triple form does appear
It does.
in some ancient depictions of Hecate.
Right.
Right. Theoi Project mentions the three-headed Hecate on the Pergamon altar, for instance.
Absolutely. And that's where it gets interesting.
Right.
Because it wasn't always three separate bodies.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was three heads on one body.
Oh.
Which, adds a whole other layer of symbolism.
Right. It's like she's looking in all directions, aware of everything happening in every realm.
Right. Keeping an eye on things.
That imagery really underscores her connection to those in-between spaces.
It does. And, it ties back to her epithet, Triaditis.
Triaditis.
She of the Triple Road.
Right.
Reinforcing that association with Crossroads.
Right.
Places of decision and transition.
Okay, but Theoi Project also lists a ton.
He does.
Of other epithets for Hecate.
It does.
Sotera, Phosphorus, Nyctopolos. The list goes on.
And on.
And that's what makes her so compelling.
Absolutely.
She embodies such a wide range of attributes, both light and dark, benevolent and fearsome.
She really runs the gamut.
She does.
Yeah.
She defies easy categorization.
She does.
Which is probably why she continues to fascinate and intrigue us.
Yeah.
Even today.
Even today.
Okay, so we've got a mysterious origin story, a connection to the triple form that's more complex than we initially thought.
Right.
And a whole bunch of epithets that paint a picture of a truly multifaceted goddess.
A very multifaceted goddess.
But what about the stories themselves?
Right.
What role does Hecate play in the myths?
Well, one of the most famous stories involving Hecate is the abduction of Persephone.
Okay.
And that's mentioned in all three of our sources.
Right.
It's a key myth that highlights her liminal nature and her unique position within the Olympian pantheon.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
From the Homeric hymn to Demeter. It's Hecate who helps Demeter search for her daughter.
Yes, she does.
Even venturing into the shadowy underworld with torches to illuminate the darkness.
To light the way.
And it's significant that she's the one who guides Persephone back from the underworld.
Yeah.
Each spring.
Every spring.
Facilitating the cycle of death and rebirth.
Yes, that's right.
This role emphasizes her connection to transitions and boundaries.
Absolutely.
It also shows her acting somewhat independently of the other gods.
A little bit rogue.
Actually, Zeus and Hades.
Right, those two.
Who orchestrated the abduction.
Who started it all.
In the first place.
Yeah, she's kind of cleaning up their mess.
That's a crucial observation.
It is.
Hecate often seems to operate on her own terms.
She does her own thing?
Mediating between the divine and mortal realms.
That's right.
Even defying the will of more powerful deities when necessary.
Even when it's tough.
She's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in.
No, she's not.
Even if it means going against the grain.
Going against the grain, exactly.
The Theoi Project also mentions some other intriguing connections.
Yeah?
Like her possible role as the consort of Hermes.
Oh, yeah?
The messenger god.
That pairing makes sense.
Right.
Considering Hermes is also a psychopomp.
Oh.
A guide of souls.
Okay.
They both navigate between worlds.
Right.
Facilitating communication and movement between different realms.
Okay.
So they've got a lot in common.
And let's not forget about her animal companions.
Right.
Both the black dog and the polecat.
Yes.
Feature prominently.
They do.
In discussions of Hecate.
Yes, they're always there.
Absolutely. And these aren't just random animals.
No.
They carry a lot of symbolic weight.
A lot of symbolic weight.
Theoi Project dives into the connection between the black dog and Queen Hecuba, who was transformed into a dog.
After the fall of Troy.
After the fall of Troy.
Yep.
It's interesting how dogs were often sacrificed to Hecate.
That is interesting.
As both the collector and Lady of the Library point out, that sacrifice might link her to both death and protection.
Right. And again, we see those two ideas coming together. Which is so common with Hecate.
Exactly.
The dog, a creature associated with loyalty and guardianship, could symbolize her role as a protector of boundaries.
Okay.
Guiding souls through the darkness of the underworld.
And the polecat.
And the polecat.
Adds another layer of complexity.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on the source.
Right.
Theoi Project says it's either a witch named Gale.
Okay.
Transformed as punishment.
Right.
Or the midwife Galinthias.
Galinthias, yeah.
who used trickery to help Heracles be born.
Right.
So again, we see that duality with Hecate.
Absolutely.
She's associated with both punishment and aid, with the darker aspects of magic and the power of women to bring forth life.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've explored Hecate's multifaceted personality, her connections to the triple form and liminality, and her significant role in myths, like the abduction of Persephone.
A key myth.
But what about her darker side?
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about her association with Hound's Crossroads and those, shall we say, interesting rituals?
Oh, yeah, the spooky stuff.
Ah, yes, the more shadowy aspects of Hecate, which often capture the imagination.
Absolutely.
Both the collector and Lady of the Library delve into her connection to the spooky stuff, like the sacrifice of dogs, and the Deipnon ritual.
Right, the Deipnon.
The Hecate Supper.
The Hecate Supper.
The Hecate Supper sounds both fascinating and a little creepy.
A little bit of both.
The YouTube video describes cake spread and even dog meat being left at Crossroads once a month to appease Hecate.
Right, to keep her happy.
And the restless dead.
And the restless dead.
It's believed that the night of the dark moon was when the veil between the worlds was thinnest and the dead could wander freely.
Spooky stuff.
The Deipnon was a way to honor Hecate and appease these spirits, ensuring they wouldn't cause trouble.
And make them angry.
It's interesting how that ritual, while rooted in a belief in the supernatural, also had a practical element.
Right.
Lady of the Library mentions that the food often ended up feeding the poor.
Right, it did.
Creating this unintended act of charity in the name of a goddess.
Right.
Often associated with fear and darkness.
That's right. So there's that complexity again.
Right, that speaks to the complexity of Hecate.
It does.
She can't be easily categorized as
good
or evil, benevolent or malevolent.
It's that in-between space.
Right. She embodies both. Existing in that liminal space between light and shadow.
That's where she lives.
It's like she's a reflection of the world itself, with all its contradictions and complexities.
Exactly.
But speaking of darkness, it seems like her image took a turn for the spooky over time.
Well, things change.
Lady of the Library traces how she went from a powerful but generally benevolent figure in Hesiod to a more chthonic and sorcery-linked goddess.
That's right.
In later writings, by the medieval period, she was primarily seen as a witch goddess.
Oh, yeah.
A figure of fear and darkness.
It happens,
This shift likely reflects changing societal anxieties about women and magic.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
It's almost as if she became a scapegoat for those fears, her power twisted into something to be dreaded.
Right, exactly.
That's a common theme throughout history.
It is. It is.
Powerful women.
Yep.
Being demonized, their abilities recast as something threatening.
That's right.
But that doesn't diminish Hecate's true nature.
No, it doesn't.
It just adds another layer to her already complex persona.
Exactly.
Even her name is shrouded in mystery.
Of course it is.
With ongoing debate about its origins. Lady of the Library explores the arguments for both a Greek and an Anatolian connection.
Right.
The lack of Hecate in early Greek texts like Homer, combined with the possible Carian root of her name.
Right.
Think of names like Hecatus,
Hecatus,
and Hecatomnus,
yeah,
which were prominent in Kikoria, make the Anatolian connection compelling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And of course, there's the Hecate sanctuary at Legena,
right,
which adds further weight to that theory.
It does.
But Theory Project also mentions the possible connection to the Greek word Hekatos, far-reaching.
Far-reaching.
Right. Which is intriguing.
Yeah, it's all very...
It's like trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces.
With some missing pieces.
Perhaps the answer isn't about choosing one origin story.
Maybe not.
Over the other.
Yeah.
But acknowledging that Hecate's identity could encompass both.
It very well could.
She might represent a fusion of different cultural beliefs and traditions, embodying a universal archetype that transcends any single culture.
Yeah, I like that.
That's such an insightful point.
It is.
It makes you wonder if, in trying to definitively pin down her origins,
yeah,
we're missing the bigger picture.
We might be.
Maybe the ambiguity itself is part of her power.
It might be.
And appeal.
It's possible.
Perhaps the more we try to define her, the more elusive she becomes.
The more she slips away.
Well, we've certainly unpacked a lot about Hecate so far.
Yeah, we have.
From her ambiguous origins and complex relationship with the triple four.
To her roles as a psychopomp.
Yeah.
And a goddess of both light and darkness.
Light and dark all rolled into one.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, there is.
In part 2.
Right.
We'll delve deeper into the specifics of her roles and attributes, those fascinating animal familiars.
Yeah.
And the evolution of her image over time.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our Hecate deep dive.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the enigmatic world of Hecate.
Always a pleasure.
In part 1, we explored her origins, the complexities of the triple goddess concept, and her intriguing roles in Greek mythology.
She gets around.
She does.
Yeah.
Now let's shift our focus to her many roles and attributes, delving deeper into what made Hecate such a unique and powerful figure.
It's fascinating how she embodies this spectrum of seemingly opposite qualities.
It is.
The OA Project labels her a goddess of witchcraft magic.
Ghosts and necromancy.
Right.
Connecting her to the darker, more mysterious aspects of existence.
Yet we also see her associated with light protection.
We do?
And even childbirth.
That's right.
As the collector points out.
Yeah, she's got her fingers in a lot of pies.
She does. It's like she represents both the creative and destructive forces of the universe, the ebb and flow of life and death.
I mean, the collector even refers to her as a protector of the oikos.
The
household.
Right.
A role that seems to clash with those darker associations.
That apparent contradiction.
Yeah. It speaks to that liminal nature again.
It does.
She doesn't fit neatly into those boxes that we often create for deities.
Instead, she occupies those in-between spaces.
She does.
Those thresholds where boundaries blur and opposites converge.
Lady of the Library really emphasizes this.
She does.
Describing her as a figure who exists in the margins, challenging our need to categorize and define.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider her close association with Crossroads.
Of course.
Both the collector and Lady of the Library mention this connection.
They do.
She's often called Trioditis.
Trioditis?
She of the Triple Road.
Yeah.
And the Romans called her Trivia for the same reason.
Because she presided over those places.
Right.
Where 3 paths meet.
Crossroads were seen as places of transition.
Exactly.
Of uncertainty, where the veil between worlds was thin.
A little spooky.
It's like those crossroads symbolize the choices we face in life, the different paths we can take, and the unknown that lies ahead.
And Hecate, standing at that intersection, becomes a guide, helping us navigate those uncertain spaces.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that connects to her role as a psychopomp.
Right.
A guide of souls in the afterlife.
Think back to the myth of Persephone. It's Hecate who leads her back from the underworld each spring.
She's not just a passive observer.
No.
She's an active participant in those journeys between realms.
That's right.
That role as a guide is also reflected in her association with torches.
Yeah, those torches.
Which are one of her most common symbols.
Everywhere.
They illuminate the darkness. Helping souls. And the living.
And the living.
Find their way.
Yeah, it's like those torches symbolize knowledge and insight.
Okay.
The ability to see through illusions.
Right.
And navigate the complexities of life.
Then remember those pillars?
Oh, yeah.
With the torch-bearing goddess that the collector mentions?
I do.
The Hecate.
Hecate.
People would place them at crossroads and doorways.
Exactly.
For protection.
Yeah, for protection.
It's like she was both a beacon in the darkness.
She was.
And a guardian at the threshold.
Right. Keeping watch.
Warding off evil and guiding those who sought her aid.
That imagery really captures the essence of Hecate.
It does.
A protective presence.
Right.
A source of guidance.
Right.
And a light in the darkness.
But of course, we can't ignore the magic.
Oh, no.
The OA Project lists witchcraft as one of her primary domains. And Lady of the Library really dives into...
Yeah. The evolution of her image as a sorceress.
It is a fascinating evolution.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
In Hesiod, she's powerful. But generally benevolent.
Right, on the good side of things.
Yet, over time, she becomes increasingly associated with darker arts.
Right.
Especially in later writings. It's almost as if her power became more threatening as societal attitudes towards women and magic shifted.
Yeah, and Lady of the Library argues that her transformation into a figure of fear might reflect growing anxieties about female power and the perceived dangers of magic.
It's as patriarchal structures solidified figures like Hecate, who embodied both feminine strength and the mysteries of the unseen world were often demonized.
They were.
It's like she became a scapegoat for those fears.
Those fears of the unknown.
A symbol of everything that was considered dangerous and uncontrollable about women and their connection to the supernatural.
And that's a pattern we see repeated throughout history, unfortunately.
Yeah. But it's important to remember that these negative associations are not inherent to Hecate's nature.
No, they're projections of those societal anxieties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stripping away those layers of cultural baggage.
Peeling back those layers.
Allows us to see Hecate for who she truly was.
Right.
A complex, multifaceted goddess.
Yes.
Who defied easy categorization.
Couldn't put her in a box.
And speaking of defying categorization, let's talk about her animal companions.
All right.
The black dog and the polecat.
The polecat.
They seem to be more than just pets. Oh yeah, they're not just pets.
They represent different aspects.
They're symbolic
of her power.
Yeah, you're right. Theoi Project offers some great insights into their symbolism.
The black dog, as we mentioned earlier, is linked to the myth of Queen Hecuba, who was transformed into a dog.
Yep, after the fall of Troy.
After the fall of Troy.
This connection could symbolize both her connection to transformation and her role as a guide through the underworld. As dogs were often associated with death in ancient Greek culture.
And the fact that dogs were often sacrificed to Hecate
adds
another layer
to
that symbolism.
Yeah. The Collector and Lady of the Library both highlight this practice.
They do.
Which suggests a connection to both death and protection.
It's fascinating
It is.
how those seemingly opposite concepts, death and protection, are intertwined in Hecate's persona.
They really are. And the dog,
a creature known for its loyalty and guardianship, could represent her role as a protector of boundaries.
Guiding souls through the dangerous realm of the underworld.
Right, making sure they don't get lost.
And ensuring they don't stray.
Exactly.
And the polecat adds another dimension.
Yeah, what about the polecat?
To this complexity, Theoi Project mentions two possible interpretations. Either a witch named Gale, transformed as punishment, or the midwife Galinthias, who used her cunning to help Heracles be born.
So two very different interpretations.
Those two interpretations highlight the duality we keep encountering with Hecate. On the one hand, she's associated with punishment, with the darker aspects of magic and the consequences of defying the gods.
You don't want to get on her bad side.
On the other hand, she's connected to childbirth. And the power of women to bring forth life, even using trickery if necessary.
A little bit of trickery.
To achieve their goals.
That's right.
It's like she embodies both. The potential for darkness and light, destruction and creation.
That's Hecate.
She's a walking paradox.
She is a walking paradox.
Constantly challenging us to look beyond simple binary opposition.
Beyond those simple categories.
Exactly.
And that's what makes her so compelling.
It is.
She's a reflection of the complexities of life. Of the universe itself.
She embraces the shadows and the light.
The dark and the light.
Reminding us that those seemingly opposite forces are often intertwined.
They are.
And inseparable.
Two sides of the same coin.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part.
Yeah, we have.
Exploring Hecate's liminality. Her role as a psychopomp. Her association with magic and witchcraft. And the symbolism of her animal companions.
We've really gotten to know her.
But we're not done yet. In part 3, we'll delve into how she was worshipped, those intriguing rituals that were dedicated to her, and how her legacy continues to resonate in modern times. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of Hecate.
It's been a journey.
It has.
Yeah.
We've explored her origins, her many roles.
All those roles.
Those fascinating animal companions.
Yeah, they're great.
And the evolution of her image over time.
How she's changed over the centuries.
But now let's step back in time and see how she was actually worshipped.
Yeah, let's see how it was done.
In ancient Greece.
In ancient Greece.
What can our sources tell us?
Yeah.
About the rituals and practices dedicated to this enigmatic goddess?
Well, one thing that immediately stands out is that, unlike many Olympian gods, Hecate wasn't typically worshipped in grand temples.
Oh, interesting.
The collector mentions that smaller, more personal shrines were far more common, often located within households.
So Lady of the Library echoes that point, describing how people would create these small shrines.
Right, in their home.
Often featuring images of Hecate holding torches.
Right, to protect the home.
As a way to invoke her protection and ward off evil within the home.
Yeah, you don't want any of that bad stuff.
It's like she was seen as this very personal domestic goddess in that sense.
Very personal, yeah.
Almost like a spiritual guardian of the family.
Keeping watch over the household.
Exactly.
She was very much a goddess of the everyday.
Okay.
A protective presence within the home.
But that doesn't mean there weren't public rituals.
Right, of course not.
Dedicated to her as well.
Absolutely.
These often took place at those liminal spaces we've discussed.
Of course.
Crossroads. Thresholds. Boundaries. Places where Hecate's power was felt most strongly.
That's where she hung out.
The Crossroads rituals are particularly fascinating.
They are.
The YouTube video goes into detail about the Deipnon or Hecate supper.
The Hecate supper.
Where people would leave offerings of food and drink.
Right, all the good stuff.
At the meeting point of three roads.
At the crossroads.
It was believed that these offerings would appease Hecate and the restless spirits of the underworld.
Keep them happy.
Who were thought to wander freely.
On the night of the dark moon.
On the night of the dark moon.
The spooky night.
The menu was quite interesting.
Oh, yeah. What were they having?
Cakes, bread, even meat.
Meat.
Sometimes dog meat.
Dog meat were left out.
For Hecate and her entourage.
It's a potent image.
He is.
Isn't it? People gathering at these crossroads under the dark moon.
You're right.
Leaving food for a goddess and the spirits of the dead.
It really speaks to that belief in the unseen world.
It does.
And Hecate's role as a mediator between the realms of the living and the dead. That's a crucial aspect of her worship.
Absolutely.
She wasn't just a goddess to be feared or propitiated.
Nice.
She was also a source of guidance and protection.
Guidance and protection, yeah.
Someone who could help navigate the mysteries of life and death.
And that's reflected in her role in the ancient mystery cults.
Oh, right.
Which Theory Project mentions.
Those are the secretive rituals.
Very
often involving purification and initiation.
Right.
That promised a deeper understanding.
Yeah, a deeper understanding.
Of the divine in the afterlife.
Hecate's connection to the underworld.
Right.
And her role as a psychopomp made her a central figure in these cults.
Especially in places like Samothrace and Aegina.
Yeah, those were important centers.
Imagine being an initiate in one of these mysteries.
Yeah.
Guided by Hecate through the darkness.
Through the darkness.
Facing your fears and ultimately emerging transformed.
A new person.
It speaks to a powerful desire for knowledge.
In connection with the divine. A yearning to understand those forces that shape our lives.
Yeah, the big questions.
And destinies.
And that brings us to another point.
Okay.
That Lady of the Library raises Hecate's connection to witchcraft and sorcery.
Right.
A connection that has persisted throughout history.
It has.
And continues to influence her image even today.
It's a complex aspect of her legacy.
It is, yeah.
One that has, unfortunately, led to some negative interpretations over the centuries.
Right, not always seen in a positive light.
As she became increasingly associated with magic and the darker arts, especially in the later periods, she was often demonized, portrayed as a figure of evil and darkness.
Which is a real shame because, as we've seen, she's so much more than just a witch goddess.
She embodies boundaries, transitions, light and darkness.
She does it all.
She challenges our need to categorize and define, reminding us that the world...
And our own selves.
And ourselves.
We're full of contradictions and complexity.
We contain multitudes.
We do.
Yeah.
Precisely.
And I think that's what continues to draw people to Hecate.
I think so, too.
Even today.
Even today.
You know, she represents a force that can't be easily contained or controlled.
Right.
A wildness that exists within us all.
It's like she's asking us, what do you see?
Yeah.
When you look at me?
What do you see?
Am I a protector? A guide,
A guide.
A powerful sorceress.
A sorceress.
Or perhaps all of the above.
All of the above, maybe.
Then maybe the answer lies not in defining her.
Maybe not.
But in acknowledging that she defies definition.
Right. She's too big to be put in a box.
She's a force of nature.
A force of nature, yeah.
A symbol of the untamed energy that flows through the universe.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the world of Hecate,
I think the most important takeaway is that she's far more than a one-dimensional figure.
Absolutely. She's a reflection of our own multifaceted nature.
Right.
A reminder that light and darkness, fear and power can coexist within a single being.
They can.
And the next time you encounter Hecate, whether in mythology art or even in those quiet moments of introspection, remember that she's not just a goddess to be worshipped or feared.
No.
She's an invitation to explore the depths of your own being, to embrace the contradictions that make you who you are, and to find power in the spaces between. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Hecate.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.